The sky over Earth was a swirling vortex of dark energy as the monstrous form of Majin Buu hovered above the ruins of a once thriving city. His pink, gelatinous flesh pulsed with power, his beady eyes gleaming with sadistic amusement as he toyed with the few remaining warriors foolish enough to challenge him. Among them stood Vegeta, the Saiyan prince, his armor cracked and his breathing ragged. He had been brought back to life by Shenrong's power, a last-ditch effort by the Dragon Team to turn the tide against Buu's reign of terror. But even with this second chance, Vegeta's pride burned hotter than ever. He refused to merge with Goku, dismissing the idea as a weakness. Instead, he stood alone, determined to prove his superiority even in the face of annihilation. Buu giggled, his voice high-pitched and unnerving. "You're funny, little man. You think you can stop me? I squashed you before, and I'll do it again." His body rippled as he raised a pudgy hand, gathering a sphere of crackling pink energy. Vegeta's scowl deepened, his fists clenching. He remembered his previous defeat, how Buu had absorbed him, twisted his will, and used him as a pawn. This time, it would be different. With a roar, Vegeta exploded into motion, his aura flaring crimson as he activated his Super Saiyan 2 form. Lightning crackled around him as he blurred toward Buu, delivering a devastating right hook to the monster's gut. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, but Buu merely giggled, his stomach stretching unnaturally before snapping back into place. "Tickle, tickle," he taunted. Vegeta didn't let up, he followed with a spinning kick, then a rapid barrage of punches, each strike landing with enough force to level mountains. Buu's laughter turned into a snarl as he retaliated, his arm elongating like rubber before whipping forward with terrifying speed. Vegeta barely dodged, feeling the rush of air as the appendage grazed his cheek. He countered by firing a point-blank Gallic gun, the violet energy beam tearing through Buu's torso and leaving a gaping hole. But the monster merely looked down at the damage, poking a finger through it before his flesh bubbled and reformed. "Is that all?" Buu sneered. Vegeta gritted his teeth. He knew Buu's regeneration was near instantaneous, but he had to keep him occupied, just long enough for Goku to gather the energy for the spirit bomb. Every second counted. "You talk too much," Vegeta spat before launching himself skyward, his hands glowing with ki. Final flash. The golden beam erupted from his palms, a colossal pillar of destruction that seared across the battlefield. Buu's eyes widened slightly before the blast consumed him, the shockwave flattening the landscape for miles. Smoke billowed from the crater where Buu had stood, but Vegeta didn't relax. He knew better. Sure enough, the pink demon emerged, his body charred but already healing. "That actually stung," Buu admitted, cracking his neck. "But now it's my turn." His body expanded, his muscles bulging grotesquely as he powered up. The ground trembled beneath him as he lunged, his fist connecting with Vegeta's ribs hard enough to send him crashing through several rock formations. Blood trickled from Vegeta's lips as he struggled to his feet. His vision swam, but he refused to yield. He could hear Goku's voice in the distance, shouting for him to hold on just a little longer. The spirit bomb was nearly ready. 3 minutes, Vegeta muttered, wiping his mouth. "I just need to last 3 damn minutes." Buu loomed over him, his grin widening. "Time's up, Prince." He raised both hands, a swirling mass of energy gathering between them. Vegeta knew he couldn't dodge this, not in his current state. But he also knew that if he fell, Earth would fall with him. With a defiant shout, he channeled every last ounce of his power, his aura blazing like a dying star. "For my pride. For my family. I won't lose." The battlefield erupted in light as the two forces collided. The battlefield was a ruined wasteland, the air thick with the stench of burning earth and the echoes of their last, desperate struggle. Vegeta stood alone, his breath ragged, his armor cracked, but his pride unbroken. The massive form of Majin Buu loomed before him, that grotesque smile stretching wider as he toyed with the Saiyan prince. Hey, you're all alone now, Vegeta," Buu taunted, his voice dripping with mock pity. "No Goku, no fusion, just you and me." Vegeta clenched his fists, his mind racing. The Dragon Balls had brought him back, but not in time to stop Buu's rampage. Worse, he'd refused Goku's offer to fuse, too stubborn to admit that even together, they might not be enough. Now, with the Earth's survival hanging by a thread, he had to buy time, 3 minutes, if the Namekians' plan was to work. But time was a luxury they didn't have. A sudden tremor shook the ground, and Vegeta barely dodged as a massive energy blast cratered the Earth where he'd stood. Buu cackled, flexing his fingers. "Running won't save you." Vegeta smirked. "Who said anything about running?" In a flash, he lunged, his fist wreathed in blue ki, aiming for Buu's gut. The monster barely flinched as the blow landed, his rubbery flesh absorbing the impact. Before Vegeta could react, Buu's arm stretched impossibly, wrapping around his throat and slamming him into the ground. Gritting his teeth, Vegeta unleashed a point-blank Gallic gun, the violet explosion forcing Buu back. He rolled to his feet, wiping blood from his lip. Damn it. Then, a new presence flickered at the edge of his senses. A familiar, unwelcome energy. Need a hand, Prince? Vegeta's eyes narrowed as Dabura descended, the Demon King's smirk sharp as a blade. You? Dabura chuckled. Surprised? Buu's chaos is entertaining, but even I have limits. He raised his hand, conjuring a spear of dark energy. Let's settle our score, after we deal with this pink menace. Vegeta scoffed. I don't need your help. Buu's laughter cut through the tension. 2 against 1? How fun. His body bubbled, then split, a second Buu forming beside him, identical in every way. Dabura's smirk vanished. That complicates things. The twin Buus charged. Vegeta and Dabura moved in unison, their rivalry momentarily set aside. Dabura spat, his saliva hardening midair into jagged stone shards that peppered one Buu, while Vegeta hammered the other with a rapid flurry of punches. But the Buus regenerated instantly, countering with crushing blows that sent both warriors skidding back. Dabura growled. We can't win like this. Vegeta's eyes flicked to the horizon. Then we don't fight to win. We fight to survive. He raised his hands, gathering energy. On my mark. Dabura understood, summoning his own dark flames. As the Buus lunged again, they unleashed a combined blast, Vegeta's blazing blue and Dabura's searing black, colliding in a cataclysmic explosion that carved a canyon between them and their foes. Smoke billowed, but the Buus' laughter echoed through it. Nice try. Vegeta panted. 2 minutes left. And then, another tremor. The ground ruptured, and from the fissure emerged a hulking figure, clad in armor, his eyes glowing red. Broly? Vegeta's blood ran cold. The legendary Super Saiyan roared, his aura erupting like a green inferno. But his gaze wasn't fixed on Vegeta, it was locked onto Buu. Dabura's grin returned. Well. This just got interesting. Broly charged, his fists a blur as he pummeled one Buu into the dirt. The other Buu screeched, firing a barrage of energy blasts, but Broly tanked them, his body surging with power. Vegeta didn't waste the opening. Now. He and Dabura attacked in tandem, exploiting Broly's distraction. Vegeta hammered a big bang attack into Buu's spine while Dabura impaled him with a spear of molten rock. For a moment, it seemed to work, until Buu's body contorted, absorbing Dabura's weapon and spitting it back as a deadly hail. Dabura barely dodged, but Vegeta wasn't fast enough, a shard impaled his shoulder. He snarled, tearing it free. Broly, enraged, grabbed Buu and hurled him into a mountainside, the impact shaking the continent. But the moment Buu hit the ground, he split again, now 3 of them. Dabura cursed. This is getting out of hand. Vegeta's scouter beeped. 1 minute left. He activated his comm. Bulma, status. Her voice crackled through. Almost done. Just hold on. Broly roared, his power spiking uncontrollably. The sky darkened as his energy lashed out wildly, threatening friend and foe alike. Vegeta made a decision. Dabura, distract the Buus. I'll handle Broly. Dabura scoffed. And how do you plan to do that? Vegeta's smirk was grim. The same way I always do. He flared his aura, pushing past his limits. With sheer stubbornness. As Dabura engaged the Buus with a storm of dark magic, Vegeta rocketed toward Broly, dodging a wild energy wave. He landed a crushing elbow to Broly's temple, but the berserker barely noticed, backhanding him through a cliff. Gasping, Vegeta dug himself out. Damn beast. Then, light. A golden aura erupted beside him. Goku, finally recovered, flashed a grin. Need a hand? Vegeta growled. Took you long enough. Together, they faced Broly, the Buus, and the ticking clock. The final minute had begun. The air crackled with tension as the battlefield lay in ruins, smoke rising from the scorched earth. Vegeta stood alone, his fists clenched, his body aching from the relentless assault. The Dragon Ball's glow had faded, their magic spent, but the Prince of all Scions had been granted a second chance, one he refused to waste. Across from him, the monstrous Majin Buu loomed, his pink, grotesque form twisting with laughter. You're all alone now, Vegeta, Buu taunted, his voice dripping with mock pity. No Goku, no fusion. Just you and me. Vegeta's jaw tightened. He had rejected the fusion with Kakarot, unwilling to sacrifice his pride, but now the weight of that decision bore down on him. This was his fight. His redemption. The ground trembled as Buu lunged, his fist a blur of destruction. Vegeta barely dodged, the shockwave sending him skidding backward. He countered with a rapid volley of ki blasts, each one exploding against Buu's rubbery flesh, but the creature regenerated instantly, his grin widening. "Is that all you've got?" Buu sneered. Vegeta growled, his mind racing. He couldn't win this fight alone, not like this. But he didn't need to win. He just needed to hold the monster off. 3 minutes. That's all Goku had asked for. 3 minutes to gather the energy for the spirit bomb. A sudden explosion rocked the battlefield as Buu unleashed a wave of energy, forcing Vegeta to shield himself with crossed arms. The heat seared his skin, but he refused to yield. "You're not getting past me," Vegeta spat, his voice raw with defiance. Buu's eyes narrowed, then glinted with sadistic amusement. "Oh? Then let's make this interesting." With a grotesque stretch of his body, Buu split into multiple copies, each one cackling as they surrounded Vegeta. The Saiyan prince's heart pounded. This wasn't just a fight, it was a game to Buu, and Vegeta was the toy. Desperation clawed at Vegeta's resolve, but he buried it deep. He couldn't afford to falter. Not now. With a roar, he unleashed a massive energy wave, obliterating several clones, but more took their place. One of them landed a crushing blow to his ribs, sending him crashing into a cliffside. Pain flared through his body, but he forced himself up, blood trickling from his lip. "Pathetic," Buu's voice echoed from all sides. "You're just delaying the inevitable." Then, a flicker of movement in the distance caught Vegeta's eye. Goku, high above, arms outstretched as he gathered energy from every living thing on Earth. The spirit bomb was forming, but it wasn't ready. Not yet. Vegeta gritted his teeth. He had to buy more time. Summoning every ounce of strength, Vegeta charged forward, his fists blazing with energy. He weaved through Buu's clones, landing devastating blows, but the real Buu remained elusive. The monster's laughter filled the air, grating on Vegeta's nerves. "You're getting slower," Buu taunted. Vegeta ignored him, focusing on the clock in his mind. 2 minutes left. Suddenly, Buu's form shimmered, his body expanding grotesquely. "Enough playing," he declared. A massive energy sphere formed in his hands, swelling with terrifying power. Vegeta's eyes widened. If that hit, there'd be nothing left. Not of him, not of the planet. Not even enough time for Goku to finish the spirit bomb. A cold realization settled over Vegeta. There was only one way. With a final, determined breath, he raised his hands, channeling every last bit of his energy into a single, desperate gambit. Final. His voice was steady, despite the exhaustion. Flash. A blinding beam erupted from his palms, colliding with Buu's attack in a cataclysmic explosion. The force sent Vegeta hurtling backward, his body screaming in protest, but he'd done it. He diverted the blast skyward, buying Goku those precious extra seconds. As the smoke cleared, Vegeta lay broken, his vision blurring. Above him, Buu staggered, his form flickering from the strain. You shouldn't have been able to do that," the monster muttered, confusion replacing his earlier glee. Vegeta smirked, even as darkness crept into the edges of his sight. "Guess you underestimated me." Then, from the heavens, a brilliant light erupted. The spirit bomb. Goku's voice rang out, filled with urgency. "Now, Vegeta. Get out of there." But Vegeta didn't move. He couldn't. And as the radiant sphere descended, he closed his eyes, a single thought echoing in his mind. "This is my atonement." The explosion engulfed everything, the shockwave rippling across the planet. And in that moment, the tide of battle shifted, not with a roar, but with a sacrifice. When the light faded, Buu was gone. And so was Vegeta. High above, Goku stared in stunned silence, his hands trembling. "Vegeta. You stubborn, proud fool." His voice cracked. "You did it." The battlefield was silent. The fight was over. But the cost was everything. The air crackled with energy as the battlefield trembled under the sheer force of clashing powers. Vegeta, freshly revived by Shenrong, stood defiantly against the monstrous might of Majin Buu, his fists clenched and aura blazing like a violet inferno. He had refused fusion with Goku, choosing instead to face Buu alone, pride and fury driving him beyond his limits. Buu giggled, his pudgy face twisting into a grotesque grin. "You think you can stop me, little Saiyan?" He taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. Vegeta didn't answer. Instead, he lunged, his movements a blur of speed as he delivered a crushing elbow to Buu's gut, followed by a spinning kick that sent the pink monstrosity skidding across the ruined landscape. But Buu barely flinched. His body rippled like rubber before reforming instantly, his laughter echoing unnervingly. Too slow, he sneered, stretching his arm like taffy to deliver a surprise punch that sent Vegeta crashing through a mountain. Rocks shattered, dust plumed, but Vegeta emerged, blood trickling from his lip, his eyes burning with determination. Gritting his teeth, Vegeta powered up, his aura exploding outward as he unleashed his full strength. "I won't let you win," he roared, vanishing in a burst of speed before raining down a relentless barrage of punches and energy blasts. Each strike was precise, aimed at overwhelming Buu's regeneration, forcing the demon to expend energy to recover. Buu's patience wore thin. His body swelled grotesquely before unleashing a devastating shockwave, sending Vegeta hurtling backward. "Enough games." Buu screeched, his form distorting as he charged, his fists a flurry of brutal impacts. Vegeta blocked desperately, his arms trembling under the force, but he refused to yield. With a snarl, Vegeta feinted left before pivoting into a devastating uppercut, channeling every ounce of his ki into the blow. Buu's head snapped back, but before Vegeta could press the advantage, Buu's leg elongated, wrapping around his ankle and yanking him off balance. The Saiyan Prince barely had time to react before Buu's knee slammed into his ribs, knocking the wind from his lungs. Coughing blood, Vegeta rolled aside just as Buu's fist cratered the ground where he'd been. His vision swam, but he forced himself to focus. 3 minutes. Just hold him for 3 more minutes. Goku's plan depended on it. Summoning his last reserves, Vegeta unleashed a blinding final flash, the golden beam slicing through the battlefield. Buu screamed as half his torso vaporized, but the damage began healing almost instantly. Vegeta panted, his body screaming in protest, but he smirked. "Not so tough now, are you?" Buu's eyes narrowed, his playful demeanor gone. "You'll regret that," he hissed, his body surging with dark energy. The ground quaked as Buu transformed, his muscles bulging, his power skyrocketing. Vegeta's smirk faded. This wasn't just regeneration, Buu was evolving. The battle reached its climax as Buu's new form closed the distance in an instant, his fist connecting with Vegeta's jaw with bone-shattering force. Stars exploded in Vegeta's vision as he was sent flying, his body bouncing across the terrain like a ragdoll. He barely managed to right himself midair when Buu was already upon him, delivering a crushing axe kick that drove him into the earth. Craters formed with each brutal impact, Vegeta's body pushed beyond endurance. Yet, as Buu loomed over him, ready to deliver the final blow, Vegeta's hand shot up, gripping Buu's wrist with iron strength. "Not yet," he growled, his other hand glowing with unstable energy. With a roar, Vegeta detonated the point-blank blast, engulfing them both in a cataclysmic explosion. The shockwave leveled miles of terrain, smoke and debris obscuring the aftermath. When the dust settled, Vegeta lay broken but alive, Buu's laughter ringing out as his body reformed once more. "You fought well," Buu admitted, almost respectfully, before raising a hand charged with lethal energy. "But now, you die." Vegeta smirked weakly, his voice barely a whisper. "Hey. Too bad. You're out of time." A golden streak cut through the sky, Goku, in Super Saiyan 3, his fist colliding with Buu's face in a thunderous impact. The demon was sent flying, his attack interrupted. Goku landed beside Vegeta, his expression grim but determined. "You held him off long enough. Now it's my turn." Vegeta chuckled, his body finally giving out as darkness claimed him. But he had done it. 3 minutes. The fight wasn't over, but the tide was turning. The air crackled with energy as the battlefield trembled beneath the weight of 2 titans. Majin Buu, his grotesque form pulsating with unchecked power, loomed over the ruined landscape, his laughter echoing like thunder. Across from him stood Vegeta, battered but unbroken, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had been brought back by Shenrong's power, but this wasn't about second chances, it was about pride, about proving he could stand alone. Goku's voice echoed in his mind, desperate and pleading. "Vegeta, we have to fuse. It's the only way." But Vegeta had refused, snarling that he would never merge with Kakarot again. This was his fight, his redemption. And now, as Buu's crimson eyes locked onto him, he knew he had to hold the line, just 3 minutes. That's all Goku needed to charge the spirit bomb. Buu lunged, his fist a blur of pink destruction. Vegeta barely dodged, the shockwave tearing a canyon into the earth behind him. He retaliated with a brutal uppercut, sending Buu spiraling into the sky, but the monster twisted midair and fired a barrage of energy blasts. Vegeta weaved through them, his body screaming in protest, his armor shattered in places. Is this all you've got? He taunted, though his breath came in ragged gasps. Buu's grin widened. You're weak, Saiyan. Just like the rest. His body morphed, elongating like taffy before snapping forward, his fist slamming into Vegeta's gut. The prince coughed blood, skidding backward, but he dug his heels in, refusing to fall. Weak? Vegeta spat. I've spent my whole life chasing strength. And I won't let a mindless beast like you take that from me. With a roar, he erupted in a blinding aura, his power surging beyond its limits. The ground quaked as he launched himself at Buu, fists a whirlwind of fury. Each strike carried the weight of his past, his failures, his rage, his unyielding will. Buu staggered, his regeneration struggling to keep up, but he wasn't done yet. You're just delaying the inevitable. Buu cackled, his body bulging before unleashing a devastating energy wave. Vegeta crossed his arms, bracing as the blast engulfed him. The heat seared his skin, the force threatening to vaporize him, but he gritted his teeth and pushed forward, inch by agonizing inch. For my pride. For my family. I won't lose. His aura flared again, a final, desperate surge, and he punched through the energy wave, his fist connecting with Buu's face in a thunderous impact. Buu reeled, his features twisting in shock. Impossible. He screeched. But Vegeta didn't let up, his assault relentless. He knew he was reaching his limit, his vision blurred, his muscles burned, but he refused to stop. Kakarot, hurry up. He thought, praying his rival was almost ready. Then, like a beacon, Goku's voice rang out. Vegeta, now. Vegeta smirked, blood trickling from his lips. About time. With the last of his strength, he grabbed Buu's arm, holding him in place. You lose, he growled. Above them, the sky darkened as Goku hurled the spirit bomb, a colossal sphere of pure energy descending like judgment. Buu's eyes widened in terror as the light consumed him, his screams fading into nothingness. The explosion shook the planet, a blinding radiance swallowing everything. When the dust settled, Vegeta collapsed to his knees, his body broken but his spirit unshaken. Goku landed beside him, panting. We did it, he said, offering a hand. Vegeta swatted it away, but there was no malice in the gesture, just exhaustion. I did my part. That's all. The aftermath was quiet. The universe, once threatened by Buu's madness, was safe again. But something had shifted. Vegeta had proven he didn't need fusion, didn't need to rely on anyone else to stand against the impossible. And Goku, for once, had trusted him completely. As the sun rose over the scarred battlefield, Vegeta finally allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear, the Saiyan Prince had carved his own path, and nothing would ever be the same.